Have you ever been in the middle of a heated argument, a family blow-up, a tense meeting, or a moment when everyone around you was losing their composure and you stayed perfectly still? No raised voice, no flushed face, no rush to defend yourself. Just calm. And in that moment, the entire energy of the room shifted. People glanced at you, waited for you to react, and when you didn't, something changed. They spoke more carefully. They backed off. They started explaining themselves. You didn't say much, but you said everything by saying almost nothing. If you've lived long enough to have seen this happen more than once, you already know the quiet truth. Calm is rare, and that's exactly why it's feared. After decades of watching emotions run high and people unravel under pressure, many of us eventually discover that the real power in any room isn't volume, speed, or intensity. It's stillness. Today we're going to unpack why emotional control separates people in every hierarchy you've ever been part of, why chaos signals weakness, how calm becomes a weapon without ever being drawn, and how someone with your experience can cultivate this rare strength without ever becoming cold or detached. Calm immediately separates people because it is the one state most humans cannot fake under real pressure. When emotions run high, the mask slips. Voices rise, faces redden, words tumble out faster than thought. Calm cuts through all of that like a blade through fog. The person who remains steady while others escalate becomes the unspoken center of gravity. Others instinctively orient toward them, not because they shouted loudest, but because they refuse to be moved. You've seen this in boardrooms where one executive stays quiet while others argue, and suddenly the decision flows toward them. You've felt it at family gatherings where raised voices quiet down when one person simply looks on without flinching. Calm isn't passive, it's gravitational. Chaos signals weakness because emotional volatility reveals insecurity and loss of control. When someone shouts, interrupts frantically, or reacts with visible anger, they are broadcasting one message: I am not in command of myself. The nervous system is in fight or flight. The prefrontal cortex is offline. Self-regulation has collapsed. Others read this instantly. They sense vulnerability. They sense someone who can be pushed, provoked, or outlasted. Calm, on the other hand, signals the opposite: mastery over the self. The brain interprets it as high status because only those with real inner security can afford to stay composed when the stakes are high. Biologically, calm under pressure changes how others perceive you at the deepest level. When you remain steady, your nervous system stays in the parasympathetic state. Rest and digest, not fight or flight. Your heart rate variability is smoother, your breathing even, your voice low and measured. This state is contagious in reverse. It calms the room while making others feel their own agitation more acutely. They become aware of their racing pulse, their shallow breath, their rising tone. In contrast, your stillness highlights their chaos. The perception shift is immediate. They begin to feel smaller, less certain, less in control. You don't have to say a word for them to start second-guessing themselves. Calm people are hard to read because they offer no predictable emotional cues. Most of us telegraph our inner state: anger, fear, excitement, insecurity, through face, voice, posture, speed. Calm removes those signals. No tells. No tells means no leverage. Others can't anticipate your next move. They can't provoke you into a reaction they can use. They can't flatter you into compliance. The absence of readable emotion creates ambiguity, and ambiguity breeds caution. People hesitate before pushing someone they can't predict. That hesitation is power. The threat of emotional immunity is real. When you can't be provoked, you become dangerous in the eyes of those who rely on emotional leverage. Anger, guilt, flattery, shame. These are the tools insecure people use to move others. If those tools bounce off you, they are left exposed. They feel powerless. They feel foolish. They feel the ground shift beneath them. That unease is why calm is often met with discomfort, even hostility. You've become the one mirror they can't distort. Calm disarms aggression because anger needs resistance to sustain itself. When you meet rage with rage, it feeds. When you meet it with calm, it starves. The aggressor expects a counterattack, an explanation, a defense, something to latch onto. Silence, a steady gaze, a measured, "I hear you," starves the fire. Without fuel, the outburst collapses. Most people cannot sustain emotional intensity against a wall of composure. They either escalate wildly, which exposes them further, or deflate. Either way, you remain untouched. There is a profound difference between calm and passive. Passive is avoidance born from fear. Calm is stillness born from strength. Passive waits to be acted upon. Calm chooses when and how to act. Passive absorbs disrespect. Calm redirects it. Passive shrinks. Calm expands. Stillness can be the most assertive thing in the room, when it is deliberate, when it is chosen, when it carries the weight of someone who knows exactly what they are withholding. Calm people control the pace because they refuse to be hurried. They use silence as a tool. They delay responses just long enough to make others fill the void. They let questions hang until the asker starts answering their own question. They speak slowly when others rush. Timing becomes their instrument. Delay creates pressure. Pressure creates mistakes. Mistakes create openings. The person who controls the rhythm controls the conversation. Calm forces others to expose themselves because emotional people cannot tolerate the contrast. Your restraint highlights their volatility. They talk more to relieve the tension you refuse to relieve. They justify more to fill the silence you refuse to fill. They reveal more because your composure makes their agitation unbearable. In the end, they hand you their cards while you keep yours close. Calm is often misinterpreted as arrogance because insecurity projects. When someone cannot provoke you, they cannot feel superior. When they cannot move you, they feel small. The easiest way to cope is to reframe your composure as a character flaw. Cold, superior, detached, arrogant. Let them. Their label is their own discomfort speaking. It has nothing to do with your truth. Calm is most dangerous in exactly the situations where most people lose it. Arguments that escalate into shouting matches, negotiations where leverage depends on composure, confrontations where emotion is the weapon of choice, public pressure where the crowd feeds on volatility. In these moments, the calm person becomes the eye of the storm. Everyone else spins. They remain centered. Over time, calm becomes a reputation. People stop testing those who never lose composure. They learn, this person doesn't crack. They don't overreact. They don't chase. They don't need to prove anything. The reputation itself becomes the shield. Challenges become rare because they feel futile. The inner discipline required to stay calm is real. It is trained, not natural. It begins with breath awareness in small moments. It builds through deliberate pauses before responding. It strengthens every time you choose restraint over reaction. It deepens when you practice sitting with discomfort instead of escaping it. Calm is muscle memory earned through repetition. The older you are, the more you've had the chance to train it, if you've chosen to. There are moments when calm should be broken. Strategic assertiveness still matters. When boundaries are crossed beyond repair, when clarity requires force, when protection demands action, calm gives way to measured intensity. The key is choice. You break calm because you decide to, not because you were forced to. That difference is everything. Here is the final principle worth carrying with you. Still waters run deep. The calmest person in any room almost always holds the most leverage. Not because they dominate, but because they refuse to be dominated. They don't need to shout to be heard. They don't need to react to be respected. They simply are. And that presence alone reshapes the space around them. After all these years of watching storms come and go, of seeing people rise and fall on the strength of their own composure, you already know this truth in your bones. Cultivate calm. Train it. Protect it. Let it become the quiet force that moves mountains without ever raising its voice. You've earned that depth. Now let the world feel it.